The Unhappy Hour on the new AmericanMedia.com.
Yeah.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles, to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM radio network at the new AmericanMedia.com. My name is Brian Engelman, and I'm going to be your host, as I have been for the past 4 years. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you that have been a part of any of our shows, any of our comments, our commentary, our conversations online. If you are subscribed through us on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and all that jazz, thank you so much. We are trying to share a lot of information. We try to put the important stuff at the newamericanmedia.com into our Agree to Disagree show. And that covers pretty much everything you're not supposed to talk about with people inside of a bar. And that would be religion and politics and finance and all that jazz. But over here on the Unhappy Hour, we try to keep it mostly, if not entirely. Okay, mostly. I like to blur the lines from time to time, but we try to keep it sports. We're the only Cleveland-centric, Los Angeles-based sports show that I'm currently aware of. And it's a busy time right now. The Cavaliers dropped Game 1 against the Bulls. I mean, missing Kevin Love and J.R. Smith for 2 days. Kevin Love for the season, and who knows if he'll ever be back in a Cavs uniform again. We'll find out. I think we're going to bring in Zach Barris, lifelong Cleveland sports fan, former NBA scout and current NBA consultant. He's going to come in and kind of break down what went right, what went wrong, how we can adjust, and what we should expect out of that Chicago Bulls series. So, before we get to Brandon Odell, and we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns draft this year, I want to say check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. 3 things on the right-hand side. 1 is the TNAM radio button. That's where you click play to listen live. Underneath that are 2 more things, our Twitter feed and our Facebook feed. So you can click them and find us and link up with us there. Or you can go on Facebook and do a search for The New American Media with spaces in between and then like the page. Or on Twitter, we're at American_media_. That's American_media_. Finally, perhaps most importantly, subscribe on YouTube.com/The New American Media. And if those little advertisements pop up at the beginning of our videos, if you let them play, it's like tossing a penny into our wishing well. We are now monetized. So if you want to toss a penny into our wishing well, let those advertisements play, because it would be appreciated. So, without further ado, let's get into the current NFL draft. I thought it would have been funny, Brandon, if Ray Farmer would have been texting Roger Goodell, like from the sidelines of the draft, like if he's texting his picks in and doing it differently since he got sanctioned by Goodell by that. But I guess overall, let's do an overview. What do you make of the Browns draft in its entirety, if we can kind of sum it up in one piece as opposed to player by player?
Well, I would probably start by saying that it's not anything that is going to engender any overwhelming excitement with the fan base due to the fact that overall it was I'm trying to think of the best word for it.
Utilitarian, functional. Not sexy, mechanical, not flashy. Yeah.
It was all about picks that would help to strengthen the core of the team rather than necessarily the skill positions. Being that they had so many picks, you're talking about a lot of guys that they're hoping are going to round out the numbers 30 through 50. Through 53 on the roster. You're not talking about, all of the guys that are going to be contributing in a starting role. But, that's what happens when you have 12 picks. I mean, in fact, you're going to talk about some of these guys that, very possibly won't even actually make the roster, especially, considering the fact that every year we have a player or two that comes to us undrafted. And in the last few years, some of those have been some of our bright stars. Tayshaun Gibson certainly is one that comes to mind. A little bit further back, Josh Cribbs. So there certainly are some diamonds in the rough to be found as well. But overall, a solid draft. Not something that's going to knock your socks off, but something that's necessary to help the team grow. I think that there are definitely some guys that they picked up in the earlier rounds that hopefully will be able to contribute immediately in a very positive way. And I'm excited to see what some of them can do when they get out on the field.
We're talking with Brandon Odell here on, I guess we could tentatively or just, I guess, unofficially call this Strictly Browns, because that used to be the name of our running regular show. Who knows? We may even come back with that at some point in the future. But you said guys that we picked up in free agency. I want to talk about guys that picked up Roger Goodell. I mean, that was probably the most entertaining moment of the entire draft. The new Cleveland Browns defensive tackle, Danny Shelton from the University of Washington, comes out and he bear hugs and lifts Roger Goodell. What did you make of that?
I think the look on Roger Goodell's face as that was occurring probably could have spawned hundreds, if not thousands, of internet memes.
Have you seen any good ones? They haven't crossed my desk. I just haven't accidentally found any. Have you?
No, I haven't.
But they should. They should.
They should, and they probably do exist.
Well, let's talk about Danny Shelton. You know, the number 12 pick. I mean, this is something that a lot of people kind of had slipping to number 12 or, falling absolutely appropriately to number 12 and seeing that the Browns were just putrid in the run defense last year. It kind of seemed like it made sense on every level. I mean, what do you make of this kid, Danny Shelton, and just drafting defensive tackle with your number 1 pick in general? Do you like the move?
Oh, I love it. I mean, you're talking about a Browns defense that's we're not talking about, household names that were the only ones that were running on us. I mean, we're talking about, well, in a way, I guess he's a household name, but Denard Robinson for the Jacksonville Jaguars looking like the second coming of Earl Campbell, running for 130, 140 yards on us. We're talking about Lorenzo Taliaferro from the Baltimore Ravens having a great game. Obviously, Justin Forsett had a great game with the Ravens, but at least he was a little bit more of a household name by the end of the season. You're just Elijah. What was the running back? I wanted to say Elijah Blue, but that's Cher and Sonny Bono's son, who played in that band Dead Sea. No, it's something Blue was another one of those running backs from I think the Texans. The game that Arian Foster wasn't playing, and we thought we were going to be in good shape, and they ran for like 140, or he ran for 140 yards. So either way, the point is that you're talking about guys that are basically running backs right off the street that are running hard, running fast, and running for long, powerful gains against us. And this is a gentleman in Danny Shelton who I believe is 6'2", probably is going to be at a playing weight somewhere between 350 to 370 pounds. I think you put him and Phil Taylor next to one another on the defensive line, and automatically you're talking about 4 offensive linemen that are probably going to be occupied. And I know on passing downs that's not necessarily going to maybe work quite as well, but as far as running football, I think that you're going to certainly see some of those lanes close up maybe a lot more effectively than what we were able to do last year.
Well, in these players you're talking, I believe the running back you're referencing may have been Alfred Blue.
Okay. So not Cher's son?
Well, he might be Cher's son. I'm gonna have to go to some advanced statistics, and unfortunately, my producer is out to lunch right now. No, I had to type it in and type Blue, Texans running back, and then I got that guy. So I think it might be him. But anyway, I digress.
Then you got a picture of a sad Arian Foster.
A sad Cleveland Browns. I don't know. I could see like a picture of the stadium and just a lot of sad faces, and it's like a side by side with a sad Arian Foster, who's probably injured, of course.
A blue Texans running back.
Oh, don't be so blue, pal. You got a bright future ahead of you. Keep your head up. But talking about Phil Taylor and Danny Shelton there clogging up the middle, I mean, people are talking about Phil Taylor and are we going to re-sign some of our defensive linemen? And a lot of people kind of see Danny Shelton as someone who's going to be there to replace somebody that's going to be maybe leaving next year or the year after. Kind of same deal with our second-round pick, if you think about it. Alex Mack it's so weird, the Alex Mack story. I mean, the team was just playing over their heads. Fantastic. What were we, 5-2 last year when Alex Mack got injured against the Steelers? Something like that.
4-2, I believe.
4-2 maybe. And he goes down, and then all of a sudden the whole team looks like crap. One player goes down, the whole team looks like crap. Now, it could be a variety of things. You know, they're finally exposing Brian Hoyer. The system doesn't work. Who knows? But when Alex Mack went down, things were bad, and they were really bad all year. So he's coming back, but there was that. Remember that contract snafu with Alex Mack last year? Like, he wasn't really happy in Cleveland. He didn't want to be in Cleveland. He got signed to a different contract. Man, off the top of my head, I think that was it the Jacksonville Jaguars that signed him, Brandon?
Yes.
Okay, pull that out of the clear blue sky. But yeah, and people are saying, well, Alex Mack might not be here next year. So why not take this guy, Cameron Irving? He might be the center of the future. He might be able to play the guard positions on the right side, maybe even slide to tap. People are just saying he can just play anywhere on the line, and he might be our future center. What do you make of why we took Cameron Irving from Florida State at center? I guess just why do you think we did it, and do you think it's a good move?
Let's think back to about 5-6 years ago when we drafted Alex Mack. What was it, 2009 maybe? Chances are if we all hit the rewind button back then, we weren't really too overly excited about taking a center in the first round. 5 years later, does anybody question that move in the slightest? Absolutely not. I think that 5 years from now, Cameron Irving is going to be a similar pick, where there are a lot of people that kind of scratch their heads and say it's not the exciting, sexy pick that we were looking for. But if we then, instead of hitting the rewind button, hit the fast forward button to a few years from now, I think he's exactly the kind of player that is going to endear himself to the Cleveland Browns fans. Both he and Danny Shelton have really spoken quite extensively about their desire to show off their work ethic. And their desire to just be on the football field. They don't really care where they play. They just want to get in there. And I think that Cameron Irving is a guy that is very versatile. It's going to hopefully allow us to really cover multiple bases in terms of problems that we have with offensive line members. If Alex Mack is back and healthy, he is someone who can compete immediately at right tackle or at right guard. Maybe right tackle, and you slide in Mitchell Schwartz to right guard. Maybe John Greco then ends up being your first man out that can be a super sub when you need him to fill in at either of the guard spots, barring with any injury problems. So there's just no real. It was a luxury pick either way. There's no real way to really say anything bad about it, other than the fact that you had this receiver on the board, or you had that receiver on the board, and you could have taken them. So ultimately, a few years from now, I think we're going to say it's a good pick, solid pick. If Alex Mack does stay after next year, our offensive line is basically made up of nothing but first and second round picks, and that can never be a bad thing. So I like the pick. I think he's a solid player. We're talking about a guy that ended up playing even better at center after being asked to move there midway through the season this past year. So it's a guy that is obviously very intelligent and willing to be coachable. So I like the move. I think it's good.
Well, you kind of touch on a couple of things there, but let's go back to this one. Why? And this kind of is the question we're all asking. Well, okay, I'll ask the question in a second. This is the other point I was going to make, and I almost glossed over it. But, you've been doing shows with me for how long now, Brandon? Has it been 4 full years since you've been doing? I mean, pretty close to when we got started. You were one of the first people. I'm like, dude, let's talk some Browns. Come on, B. Let's talk some Cleveland Browns. I mean, you've been with us for a long time, and it's nothing new. It's nothing I haven't said for a long time. I love drafting in the first round, using our number 1 picks on bad boy offensive linemen, because it'll make the quarterback better, it'll make the running game better, it'll make the passing game better, control of the game clock better for the defense. I love drafting offensive linemen in the first round. I guess then, before I move to the question, do you think that strategy, the one that I've been screaming since, hey, let's draft Tim Couch but put him behind a bunch of revolving doors. It's like nobody will be good back there if you don't give him a chance. I don't know. I mean, do you like it the same way that I do for that reason, or do you think I'm overvaluing the importance of first-round draft picks? I mean, you kind of talked about something similar a few moments ago.
No, I don't think you're overvaluing it at all, and I think the spot where we got him was pretty close to where he was being projected to go. So I think it was one of those need meets value kind of situations, and I think he'll slide in really nicely. Wherever he ends up on our offensive line, whether it's covering for injury, whether it's being able to have a little bit of a redshirt year if he isn't able to beat out any of the veterans. And, and then after this season is over with, you have Mitchell Schwartz and Alex Mack both in possible contract situations. So it's pretty obvious where he could be able to slide into one of those spots too. So win-win-win.
Yeah, I like your comment. What did you call him, a super sub?
He certainly could be, yeah.
Something like that?
Multiple roles if you needed him to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to have, to roll 6 people deep on an offensive line. I mean, those guys are running around. That is a rough game that's being played right there in the trenches. You might want to have some flexibility, some toughness, and some backups. That just everything falls apart if you don't. I mean, you got to have good tires on your car if you want to make it through a tough winter. And that's literally what you'll have in the AFC North is Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Cincinnati. It's a big boy game, and I think you need the big boys to set the table for you. But the question I kind of steered away from a moment ago that you brought up is at number 19, people were saying, you guys passed on Sammy Watkins last year. You passed on, go down the Odell Beckham, go down the whole list of who we passed on. And then this was another very strong wide receiver class. It's not that we didn't take one at our number 12 pick or our 19 pick or our number 51 pick or 77 or 96 or 115. We waited till 123 to get a kid out of Washington State in the late 4th round. Are you okay with that? Do you think that's a better value going offensive line there? But it's just with Josh Gordon being down, it's like, really, Robisky and Bo? These are your guys? I mean, I know our other guys have talent, but why not get a superstar?
Don't confuse your Ohio State receivers.
I said there. Robisky. Good call. Yes, I meant Brian Hartline, of course. But, I mean, what do you think that we waited so long to take a receiver? No big deal, kind of perplexing?
Who knows? I mean, ultimately, everyone gets all excited when the pick is being made, but no one knows how the guy is really going to pan out until he steps out in the football field. So, once again, if you picked Darius Hayward-Bay over Alex Mack 5 years ago, and you were the Oakland Raiders, everybody was thinking, oh wow, here you guys now all of a sudden have the fastest receiver in the NFL. But which pick would the Raiders have rather made now? So, it's just the fact of the matter is that no one really knows. Grading the draft, being able to really say, oh, well, I think that this is an amazing pick, and until these guys get on the field, I mean, every single one of them is an all-star in college. I mean, we're not talking about taking chances on any guys that were Joe Schmoes in college. These guys were all the best athletes, the best players on their teams. For many of them, they were the only star player on their teams. When you're talking about guys that come from places like Utah and with their second-round pick Nate Orchard, or how many other star players do you think Washington or Washington State really had on their team? Who knows? It's so hard to say which pick is the right pick in terms of there are these other receivers that we could have gotten. That Brashard Perryman that the Ravens picked up that we could have gotten at our number 19 pick could certainly end up being an All-Pro, or he could end up being Braylon Edwards or Greg Little. Who knows? So
you're very right. I mean, you draft on talent, that's fine, but sometimes you just can't call the way that this is going to shake out, and that's okay.
Everybody drafts on talent.
Yeah,
every single player.
This is a crapshoot.
You draft is talented.
It's a crapshoot. I think, for all of the accolades, that Bill Belichick receives for the Patriots, I mean, you can't really objectively. Of course, we know that they got Tom Brady in the 7th round. What pick was that? I mean, super. I don't have it in front of me. I'm not a Patriots fan, but every team has hits and misses, and even the best aren't perfect at it by any stretch. Would you even get a passing grade if you judge looking backward? I mean, it is such a crapshoot. I mean, but speaking about the positionally, when Nate Orchard comes in, do you think he might have a chance to push for a starting job at outside linebacker, or how do you think they're going to work him in?
I don't know. I mean, Barkevious Mingo has been a little bit underwhelming, but maybe underused as well. So I think it's just one of those things where you bring him into camp, you put him into a rotation with Kruger and Mingo, and you see what you have. They like that guy Scott Solomon that they signed off of the street toward the end of last season. He showed some good things in the last few games. So he's just another guy in the room. He's certainly being brought in to play a role, and is the quarterback something that we need, something that every team needs, and you can never have too many pass rushers. So we'll see what we have with him. You're the one that's on the West Coast, not me. So you're more familiar with Pac-12 players than I am. But everything that I heard about him was that the offensive linemen in the Pac-12 were asked, were surveyed about who was the hardest guy to block, and he was overwhelmingly the number one choice for defensive players in Pac-12. So I think that does say something. So, we got him in the second round. We had to trade down. We traded down for him a little bit because his value grade was a high third-round grade, and so reaching for him in the mid-second round we didn't necessarily like as much. So we traded down, probably overdrafted him just a little bit, but we like what he's going to bring to the team. I think it's that same thing with some of these other guys that we picked up. I mean, I really don't know a whole lot about any of these guys, really, because they're new to the team. But some of these players that we drafted in the third round, you have that Duke Johnson, I believe, from Miami. You have Xavier Cooper, the defensive tackle from Washington State, I believe.
Yep.
And
we have Ibrahim Campbell, safety Northwestern. Vince Mayle, wide receiver Washington State. Maley. There we go. Maley. My bad. Mm-hmm. Charles Gaines, cornerback Louisville. Malcolm Johnson. Now here's where we went. Obviously to replace Cameron. Cameron Hayward Cameron. Jordan Cameron. There we are. Cameron Jordan. Jordan Cameron left. Man, I'm getting tired of saying those weird names now. But we went back-to-back tight ends in the sixth round. Got Malcolm Johnson out of Mississippi State and Randall Telfer, tight end out of USC. Then another USC guy, Hayes Pollard, linebacker. And then I might need help with this name because I kind of forget it. But Ekpre-Olomu. Ekpre-Olomu, something like that. Yeah,
from
Oregon.
From Oregon. And,
but people said he was a steal.
Really, maybe out of any of those players, might be the one that we want to give a few final moments to, because here was a guy that actually had on some scouts mocks at the beginning of the senior season. He was rated as as at the very least a high second round pick.
Wow.
If not a mid-first pick, and actually had an insurance policy taken out on him, Marcus Mariota, and a couple other players by the University of Oregon, where it was a $3 million insurance policy barring for injury to get these guys to come back for their senior seasons. So he was one of the ones that did. And so either way, he being that he did actually get injured, I think it was in preparing for preparing for the Florida State game. So, what would have that been, the national semifinal? I think he tore his ACL. I think that the timetable basically is probably saying that in all likelihood he's going to be put on the PUP list before the season and probably won't play at all. And he'll just be one of those guys that was a true luxury pick in the seventh round. Someone that you just basically take a total chance on, and you hope that maybe next year he can get in there in that room with quite a few other talented corners. And,
to learn from Joe Hayden and everybody.
Mm-hmm. So a good pick. So overall, there's some of those guys that I mean, maybe might not make the team, but maybe might contribute.
I mean, if this guy
tight end from
No, let me make 2 points before you mention something about the tight end, if I can. I just kind of been biting my tongue here. I mean, if he goes from the first to second round pick and you take him at the end of the 7th, man, and all he had was an injury, go for it. Seriously.
Sure.
Like,
what do you
go
believe?
for it. And, but the only question for me would be, how hungry to play NFL football are you going to be after having $3 million in your bank account? I'm not sure the details. I got to look into how that works and how the payout went. But, now he's paid and he doesn't even have to play. Why risk the concussion? I'm going to sit back. My life is made, man. Who knows?
If that occurs, it was only a 7th-round pick.
Exactly,
so,
but the talent level is up
there. This is
there.
a guy that you might have cut before the season.
Right, and a quick note on Duke Johnson. I was just going to say, a friend showed me some of their footage on this kid, Duke Johnson. Apparently, he's rushed for more yards than anybody in Miami Hurricane history, and you have some really nice running backs that have come out of the U. And this kid, he's a pass catcher. He's one of those backs like the Brian Westbrook kind of guy that kind of fans out or kind of sits in the, where the linebackers are at, makes a quick catch and then 2 moves and he's gone. He's a running back that's a dual threat, and I think it's going to be a nice complement to what we have with the Crow and Terrence West in the backfield right now.
Power back.
Yeah, a little bit of scat back to go with a little biner to go with your Mac, if you will. But anyway, I jumped in there. You were going to mention something about one of the tight ends.
That tight end from Mississippi State is a guy that is being likened to a West Coast guy. That John DeFilippo, our new offensive coordinator, said that he kind of compares him to Marcel Reese, the fullback tight end, multiple position player for the Oakland Raiders, where they can move him around a little bit, and I think they like his versatility a little bit more than maybe Ray Agnew, the fullback that we had last year. So, he's another name that we might want to kind of keep in mind about. But
that would be Malcolm Johnson. Malcolm Johnson.
Yeah, So I don't have really much that I can say about the guys toward the bottom of the roster, so I'm not even really going to try. I know nothing about the safety. I know nothing about these guys that we're getting from USC. So I mean,
we can say, Brandon, that the first receiver we've taken in 2 years was almost in the 5th round, like toward the end of the 4th round. Like, that's the only receiver, knowing that Josh Gordon, a superstar, is just completely unreliable. It's just, I'm looking at the positions that we've taken, and not a single quarterback taken in this draft. What is it? I guess as we start wrapping this up here, the fact that we did not take a quarterback, did that surprise you? Was there anybody that you liked? Because obviously we weren't getting Winston or Mariota.
Let's face it. I mean, you don't even have to keep going on about that. I mean, unless you're going to take a guy that is, in this day and age, 10 years ago, Ben Roethlisberger fell to number 10 or 12 or whatever. 8 years ago, Joe Flacco fell to number 20. 8 years ago, Aaron Rodgers fell to number 19. That doesn't happen in today's day and age. If a quarterback has, a first-round grade, they're basically going to be taking him in the top 5, if not in the top 2 or 3. These guys just don't fall anymore.
We saw Teddy Bridgewater.
What happens more often is reaching for a quarterback that doesn't have a first-round grade, like, say, E.J. Manuel or Geno Smith. So I think we did the right thing by not reaching for a guy that the consensus of all of the scouts was saying that none of these guys really were first-round picks besides Mariota and besides Winston. We saw what happened. Those two went number 1 and number 2. And so besides that, you're just going to be bringing in another Colt McCoy or, another
Brady Quinn.
Another Derek Anderson to be the super strong-armed guy that can't really do much else. So
who opens camp as the starter? Who opens camp as starter? Manziel just moved out of his. I've been to his hotel building. I don't know if I've ever told you those stories, but It's this huge old bank vault, and in the bottom, like in the basement, it's a bar, and it is bank vaults, and you go from room to room, and there's these huge freaking vaults. But the condominium building upstairs, that's where Johnny Manziel was living and partying, and I'm like, oh my Lord, this is the worst possible situation to put yourself in, where you have a hopping, busy, fun bar in your basement. This is not good. But apparently he just moved out, and now he's living on a golf course. I think that's what it said on ESPN today, that he's living on a golf course now, something quiet. He went into rehab of his own free will and accord, but even if his head's right, people are questioning, does he even have the skill set that's going to translate to the NFL game? I mean, what do you make of what you think you'll see and what you hope you'll see out of Johnny Manziel coming up this year?
I mean, once again, it's just it's so hard to say. Give me the chance to see him actually throw the football in training camp and kind of starting to get some of that information out there, which, right now none of that has taken place yet. All they're basically allowed to do is just work out with the coaches. But let's face it, they want that Josh McCown will probably start the training camp as the starter, and may very well even start the season. But he's not going to last long. It's going to be Manziel's job to grab a hold of. Whether he's able to do that or not is I guess beyond the scope of anyone's true prediction at this point. I mean, most people think that he won't. But last year at this time, when he was drafted, he was another guy that was widely considered to be the savior for the Cleveland Browns. Most NFL prognosticators were saying it was a genius move for the Browns to get him, and and things just didn't work out so far. So we'll play the we'll see approach. I'm kind of tired of speculating on what Johnny Manziel will be, and until he shows me what he is, I'm not going to. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say, okay, he's gotten his mind right, supposedly. So let's see if he can get his mind right where it needs to be in terms of understanding the playbook and leading his men, and we'll see what he can do. No one really ever questioned the fact that that guys on the team wanted to follow him. So that's not something that's just going to completely go away. And I think when he's inside that locker room, he's got the protection of his other guys. He knows that they've got his back as long as he is doing his part to show that he wants to be their leader. So,
and that he's seriously,
about it.
Yeah. And that's the point. It's like, these guys will probably go to bat for him and give him a shot if he's showing up early and leaving late, if he's not showing up hungover, if he's not, the players are going to know on the field, and it's not an easy thing to learn a playbook. All right, I played defensive end. If I did, there were darts and X's. I darted in, I X'd out, and that was my stunt with my outside and middle linebackers when we would pull them. My job responsibilities were: don't let anything get between you and the sidelines. Go as deep as the deepest back. Don't get burned on a reverse. And other than that, go tackle that quarterback. That was my job. That was my playbook. It was not complicated. But for a quarterback, these playbooks, it's like learning Swahili. It's like learning German, Spanish, English. It's a new language. So, he didn't take his job seriously last year.
They have also been practicing that language for a long time. Like I said, let's give Johnny Manziel the benefit of the doubt. I think that he has just as much chance to be successful and just as much chance to be a failure as any of the other Browns quarterbacks, for whatever that means. I don't. We were all excited about Camp Colt. Remember that when
yes.
when the strike was going on and everybody was saying, oh well, McCoy is this summer he's working out with all these different guys, and he's getting them going, and he's got moxie, So this is we'll see. Johnny Manziel has that same moxie. Supposedly some more some more athletic ability than McCoy had, but probably less of a grounded presence in his life as well. So we'll see what we get out of Johnny Manziel. Let's not write him off just yet. The national media, they'll be the first to anoint you as the chosen one, and they'll also be the first to nail you to the cross. So he was the chosen one last year. Now he's getting nailed to the cross. But you know what? Everybody also loves a good comeback story. So he ends up putting together a few games in August, and looks like he's coming into camp as the real deal. And watch the fanfare grow exponentially overnight for Johnny Manziel.
Well, that is very possible to witness. That is something that we could run into. Apparently, this is on ESPN as well. It says that Johnny got right back into the playbook upon his return. Cornerback Joe Hayden said he's noticed a change in Manziel and believes he can, quote, 1,000%, end quote, become a starting NFL quarterback. Left tackle Joe Thomas, who previously suggested Manziel had lost some trust in the building, told NFL Network last week that Manziel has been, quote, night and day, end quote, better in his approach this month. So, I am excited to see what might happen here. And if this is a case where Johnny Manziel didn't get in any trouble and he went to rehab on his own and he's actually going to take this seriously, that's fantastic. But someone like that, you just wonder if, when you finally hit a 12-step program, it's not like, well, I just want to kind of get drunk. I don't want to get wasted anymore. Usually when you end up at that point, you don't really have a dimmer switch. It's either on or it's either off. And I don't know how this is going to play out, but you know what? With the first-round pick and in a season to get humiliated and humbled and kind of look in the mirror and say, hey, is my lifestyle screwing this up, or could my lifestyle be helping this? You know what? It looks on the surface like Johnny Manziel is making some changes, things that may allow him to be a quarterback in the NFL, maybe even for a long time. Maybe he could be the guy for us if he's very efficient and does his thing. We'll find out behind a revamped offensive line with the first-round pick going there. And you know what?
With a running game that is, the goal is to run the ball 30 times a game, and he's only passing 20. So
absolutely.
We'll see what happens. But, go Browns. I guess there's nothing much else to say about the draft other than, wait and see. And hopefully these guys pan out. But some of them will and some of them won't. That's the nature of the beast. And, it's just like, when you buy a bunch of scratch-offs, what's going to happen is maybe out of the 12 scratch-offs that we had, maybe 6 of them end up being good, maybe 2 of them end up being really good, and, with the other 6, you throw them back in to the pile, and you get a few more next year. So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited. Draft it's always a fun time of the year, and, let's just keep the positive vibes going for the Browns for a while before we start jumping on the Factory of Sadness bandwagon again.
Excellent. Well, hey, man, we appreciate this. I guess maybe when camp gets going, we'll bring you back in because now it's that waiting period in between. So, but thank you very much for helping us break this down. Brandon Odell, everybody. I'm sure we'll be doing more of these. I appreciate your time. We'll be back on the other side with Zach Barris talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And this is John B. Wells reminding you that not only is Brian Engelman a cool guy, and not only is the newamericanmedia.com a very cool platform, but here's a cool idea for you, too. Are you alone? Not really. Do you like dogs? Do you like cats? You do. Of course you do. Everybody does. One or the other, maybe even both. There are a lot of dogs and cats that are at shelters right now, and if somebody doesn't take them home, they're going to wind up euthanized. That's a nice way of saying they're going to be killed, because there's simply not enough room. I guarantee it, the best dogs and the best cats, the best pets come from shelters. There's something about dogs and cats. They know. They know where they are. You walk through one of them, and certainly at least one is going to look at you and go, I wish you'd take me home. I'm in hell. Please take me out of here. It'll be the best thing that you ever did for your soul. You'll feel good about it. And not only that, but you have a friend for life. Doesn't matter if you got money, you don't have money. What doesn't make any difference to a dog or cat. All they need is the sound of your voice and maybe even the stroke of your hand, and they're fine. Maybe a little food every once in a while. The sweetest sound that those pets ever hear is your voice. Think it over and adopt a cat or a dog from a local shelter today. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did.